All right, and welcome in everybody. Hope you're having a fantastic, fantabulous, awesome freaking day. My name is Garrett Shumake, and you are listening to the Shumake Take. This is the Shumake Take Conference Championship Preview. We are almost there, guys. We are almost to the Super Bowl. 1 game away, 2 weeks away. And oh my gosh, I can't believe it. I can't believe right now I'm actually talking about these playoff games. We're literally right there at the Super Bowl. Talking about the playoffs has been fun. It's been a lot of fun, and covering them has been a lot of fun. But it still hasn't set in with me that I'm making content about the Super Bowl and I'm sharing this content, sharing my thoughts and my beliefs with other people. It still hasn't really settled into my head yet. Maybe it is right now, but it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I'm making content talking about the game before the Super Bowl, and people are watching this. For those of you that do watch this, thank you very much. I appreciate it. But it's still pretty crazy. It's still pretty crazy to think about because I've never had the opportunity to share my passion like this about the playoffs on such a grand stage. It really just hasn't hit me until this very moment, which is interesting. But we're not here to talk about, and we're talk about, what I'm feeling about the Super Bowl and the conference championship. We got to talk about the conference championship. But right before we get into that, a little bit of a preface, as if you will. If you had told me in week 1 that the NFC Championship would be between the Bills and the Chiefs, and then the Commanders and the Eagles, I would have probably laughed in your face a little bit. Especially because the Commanders, I had the Commanders going 5-12, and here we are. They're 1 game away from the Super Bowl. I don't think no one expected. I don't even think the Commanders themselves expected to be in this situation, which is crazy. And then the Bills, I had the Bills taking a step back this year like a lot of people did. And now, guess what? They're the number 2 seed and they won 13 games. So, wow. The team that ended up looking like one of the worst that Josh Allen ever had ended up being one of the best in a way. It's crazy. So, in retrospect, looking at it now, sure, it makes sense. As the season went on, we saw the Commanders get better and better and better and show that they're a legit team. And then they've been hot, right? They've beat Tampa. They just beat Detroit. And so now here they are. And it's okay, now you can kind of see the foundation. You can see the stuff that they did to get here. And you can kind of understand it. And now the Bills, it's of course the Bills made it. Of course. They've been great every single year Josh Allen's been in the league, except for the first couple where he was still learning and developing. But ever since year 3, he's been phenomenal. And the Bills have constantly been in this mix. So to see them back here, it's oh, wow, of course they did. Of course they figured it out. But let's go right into it. I don't think I have anything else to say of true meaning, but let's go right into the number 6 Washington Commanders going to the number 2 Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles, luckily, in the number 2 seed, getting 3 straight home games. The NFL playoffs have honestly ran through Philly at this point, with Detroit being out. But either way, this game is going to get very, very chippy. Look, these two teams, they're division rivals, obviously. They split in the regular season. First game, it was in Philly. Philly manhandled the Commanders. They got a hold of them. They were able to contain Jaden Daniels. Obviously, Jaden Daniels was making his 6th or 7th NFL start at the time. So, obviously very different from when they faced in Washington in Week 17 or Week 16, where Jaden Daniels comes back and has a last-second, miracle touchdown to put them over the top. And you can say, sure, the Eagles didn't have Jalen Hurts because he went out with a concussion in that game, and, Kenny Pickett and Tanner McKee were in there trying to do their thing. But at the same time, he still had to go up against Philly's defense. He still had to go up Philly's defense and do that. And wow, there you go. And then he came back and won the game. So now there is definitely a lot of heat and a lot of tension going into this game. And this game will also come down to 2 things: how the teams start and how they finish. And I know that's a blanket statement, right? That, how they start, how they finish. Of course it's how they start and how they finish. But no, let me elaborate for a second. How these 2 teams start, both of these teams need to start stupid fast. And I don't mean just start, I don't mean a typical get your fast start, go out and get a touchdown on the opening drive. No, they're going to need to get touchdowns on their first 2 drives. Straight up, first 2 drives, got to get touchdowns. I think it's that important because the blows that these 2 teams, these punches that these 2 teams are going to be throwing are going to be heavy. They're going to be hard. You cannot afford to slow down at any point. And if you get slowed down, you better hope your defense can grab them by the throat and just start dragging them with you. Like, it's either going to be both of these teams up here fighting, or they're going to be both on the ground, scrapping at each other. It's got to be one or the other. It can't be both. But that's why both teams are just going to have to start fast, because you don't want to be that first team that gets on the ground and gets slowed down. You don't want to be. Secondly, how they finish. It's not just about whoever has the quarterback, or which quarterback has the ball last. The quarterback that has the ball last, I think, is going to win this game. But that's not the point. The point here is looking at these 4 divisional playoff games. You look at Mark Andrews and his fumble against Buffalo for Baltimore, right? That was a fumble in the second half. You look at the Rams against Philly. Kyron Williams fumbled. Matthew Stafford fumbled. A team that doesn't make mistakes had critical turnovers in the second half. And then for Kansas City and the Texans, the Texans didn't have any turnovers, but they did get a blocked kick, right? And then there was a missed extra point. I think the missed extra point may have been in the end of the first half, now that I'm remembering it correctly. I just recorded this too. I'm recording this now immediately after the first one, so I can't believe it's blanking from my mind here. But either way, the block kick, that was huge for Kansas City. And then you get the Commanders and the Lions, where Jared Goff threw multiple interceptions, right? The interception for the Jamison Williams threw on double reverse pass, that was really bad. And you look at all four games had a critical, these teams had a critical mistake in the second half. And so that's what I mean by this team. It doesn't matter how they start or how these teams start. It also matters how these teams finish, because you cannot have these critical second half turnovers. The turnovers, literally, I talked about this in the previous video in the divisional recap. Every team that lost outgained their opponent by, not a decent margin, but they outgained their opponent in total yards. But the reason why all of them lost was because they lost a turnover battle. Obviously, the Texans and Chiefs, the Texans didn't lose a turnover battle, they didn't commit any turnovers, but the blocked field goal, you might as well call it a turnover, because the Chiefs took away an opportunity for you to score points. So you could see it like that, whatever. But these two teams, you got to start quickly, and they cannot have any second half mistakes. If whoever has more second half mistakes is probably going to lose, but also whichever team has the ball last will probably win. Obviously, those two don't mesh together very often, but I think it very could well in this game. But getting into the game specifically for the Commanders here, what's your first key to the game? First key, if you're the Commanders, you want to win this game. As I fix my tablet, you got to stop Saquon at all costs. All costs? Let me pump the brakes on that, because it's easier said than done to stop Saquon Barkley at all costs. But there's a caveat here. There is a big caveat here, and it coincides with the second key, which is limiting this passing game and being careful. These two keys go hand in hand with each other, because Saquon Barkley has gone off in the playoffs for Philly, but this passing game has been lackluster for Philly. So if you're the Washington Commanders, you want to sell out to stop Saquon Barkley, but I wouldn't be so sure. Obviously, you have to stop Saquon Barkley, but you can't put everything on Saquon and allow this passing game, which has been lethargic these first couple of games for Philly in the playoffs, to finally wake up. You don't want to give them the big play to finally give them the momentum in the passing game they have not had the entire playoff so far. So you have to play this very carefully, because on one hand, obviously you have one giant that's running rampant all over teams. He's been running rampant. Saquon Barkley's been running rampant all year long. That's why he's ran for 2,000, right? But at the same time, the Eagles' passing game is also a sleeping giant. When they are cooking, they are one of the best passing offenses in the league. They can drop back and deal you and carve your defense up any given Sunday when they are in a rhythm. And if you allow them to wake up and get into a rhythm, it will make it that much harder for you to win. So with these two keys going hand in hand, don't stop Saquon at all costs. You're going to have to let Saquon cook you a little bit. But if it means not letting this passing game get going and, or force it to get going, then that might be better off for you. Because what would you rather face off against? Would you rather try and just stop Saquon Barkley and let him get a couple yards here? Or would you try and sell out to stop Saquon Barkley and end up allowing his passing game to finally wake up, and then now you got to stop both of them, right? It's a kind of like it's a pick your poison situation here. And if I'm Washington, I'm going to pick the poison of letting Saquon Barkley do his thing a little bit if it means we don't let this passing game for Philly get going. Secondly, or the third key technically, you got to win the turnover battle. Obviously, the team that's going to, have the, fewer mistakes will win, of course. But like I mentioned in the divisional round, 3 out of these four games, the losing team had critical mistakes in the second half. That cannot happen here, and it will apply to Philly here too when we talk about Philly, because it's their third key as well. A little bit of a spoiler, but you got to win the turnover battle. You simply cannot make mistakes, and the thing is, both of these teams have been really good at not forcing mistakes. They've been good at not committing mistakes, especially, Jaden Daniels, one of the best touchdown interception ratios in the entire NFL in his spectacular rookie season. And Jalen Hurts has been really conservative, or is conservative the right word? No. He's been very good at taking care of the football as well at points. There's been a couple points where he's been a little bit careless, but overall, I would say he's been mostly pretty good at that. And the thing too is both of these defenses in the playoffs have been able to force a ton of turnovers. Obviously, for the Commanders, the one against Tampa was not really forced by them, but it was more of an unfortunate mistake by Tampa, but they were able to jump on it and get the ball back for their offense in short field, which is critical. And then they got 5 turnovers against the best offense in the NFL against Detroit last week. Critical. Then you look at Philly. They were able to get 4 turnovers, got a fumble on the opening kickoff against Green Bay and picked off Jordan Love 3 times. And then in the second half of the Rams game last week, you made Matthew Stafford fumble, and you made Kyren Williams fumble. Critical mistakes that committed by these teams, the Eagles and the Commanders, forced on their own the majority of the time. They were forced these mistakes. So winning the turnover battle and limiting them on the offenses is going to be absolutely critical. And this is the time to not let it happen. So enough rambling about that. I think I've pretty much said everything I wanted to say here. And for the Commanders, this will be specifically for the Commanders. Do not let Jalen Carter collapse the interior of this offensive line. The offensive line for the Commanders has been shaky. It's been inconsistent. Although they played great against the Lions, didn't allow a single sack. They got Jaden Daniels in space and was able to help them out and mitigate it. But also at the same time, the Lions didn't have their best players on the defensive line were not out there. Well, that's one of the big, issues with the Lions was their injuries, right? Especially on defense, which is part of the reason why they lost and got 45 dropped on them. You're going up against a much healthier, a much better, stingier Philadelphia Eagles unit than the Detroit Lions, even when they were healthy. But Jalen Carter, he was contained a lot in the Rams game, but when it mattered most, he stepped up and wrecked the Rams offensive line, which had played great all playoffs, which had played great to that point. But the thing is, the reason why I'm kind of like beating around the bush here. The reason why the Eagles were able to beat the Commanders on the first go-around was because Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis were able to collapse the interior of this pocket and really make it hard for Jaden Daniels to run around. Because it's one thing to maintain your gap integrity, which the Eagles are really good at. Obviously, they have Josh Sweat. They have Brandon Graham. He's a veteran. These guys are good. Like, they have good edge rushers, right? And their linebackers are really good too. So the thing that made it hard was, obviously, if you don't have an area to step around in and run around, most of the time Jaden Daniels had a pocket to at least step up in. At least, Jaden Daniels has that ability. He can beat you from the pocket, so if you can't make him run around, he can still step up in the pocket and get you from there. But the Eagles, good at maintaining gap integrity, but Jalen Carter is a game wrecker. He's been a great defensive tackle this year. So if Jalen Carter collapses the interior offensive line mixed with how well the Eagles' edge rushers are, it just poses a huge issue for Jaden Daniels, because at that point, you can't throw on time, you can't get into a rhythm, and when you try to run around, you're going to step into pressure and get sacked. So limiting the interior pressure for the Commanders and limiting the interior pressure from the defensive line is going to be paramount. I know that kind of got dragged out a little bit more than I really wanted it to, but the point still stands. This is what the Commanders really are going to have to do to win this game. Moving on to the Philadelphia Eagles here. Start fast. More particularly, you got to start fast with this passing game. Like I talked about with the Commanders, not letting this passing game get woken up. I think if this passing game is going to wake up, it's going to have to be Philly themselves. They're going to have to wake up. They're going to have to take a couple like double shot of espresso and go out there and start flinging that thing. And I hate, it's now to be fair, you don't want to start with a passing game and then get away from the running game, because that's something that happened with Baltimore where they threw the ball more, but when it came to running the ball, they did not give it to Derrick Henry enough times, and ultimately that's what caused them to lose, in my opinion. So you still have to, in a way, you still have to embrace who you are. Like, you are a running football team. You still have to embrace that. But I think early on, I would get this passing game going early. I would obviously get some safe short throws to Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, right? These guys are really quick in the short to intermediate passing game. They can get open quickly. They're big and physical. Well, A.J. Brown's big and physical. Devontae Smith is quick and he's shifty, right? You can get these guys involved. And I think if you're going to want to get this passing game going early, or get the passing game going at all against Washington, you're going to have to do it yourself, get up and just start slinging the rock. Genuinely. And mix that with scoring 2 touchdowns on your first 2 possessions. I would probably just, first drive, I would throw a lot and get Saquon Barkley involved a little bit. And the second drive, I'd probably settle down a little bit and start running more with Saquon Barkley and really get this offense holistically to get settled in and ready for this game for the next, 50 or so minutes, however long it takes them for the first 4 drives of the game to happen, right? That might take the whole first quarter. But either way, get your first 2 drives in, first drive of the game, sling the rock a lot, and get this passing offense going, get it oiled up, ready to go. And then secondly, kind of like with the Commanders, not letting Jalen Carter get interior pressure, get interior pressure. Attack Jaden Daniels from the interior with Jalen Carter and also Jordan Davis, because your edge rushers are good. If you can collapse the interior, Jaden Daniels will have to get rid of throws early, throw a lot of throws away, and eventually he's going to try and run around, and he's going to step into pressure, and you're going to sack him. That is what's going to happen if you can get him pressure from the interior defensive line. Jalen Carter is a phenomenal player. He has really stepped up this year. In year 2, he's been great. Now it's time to really, let all that labor. Let's see it bear some real fruit. Let's see it bear some real fruit going up against the most prolific rookie quarterback we have ever seen in the history of the NFL to this point. Sorry, my mouth is dry. Key number 3, just like with the Commanders, win the turnover battle. Do not have any second half mistakes. Well, don't have any mistakes at all. But the second half mistakes are really what's going to kill the Eagles or the Commanders if it happens. So winning the turnover battle is paramount here. Nothing much more to say other than I said the first time. But we'll move on to key number 4 for the Eagles, which is this offensive line has to bounce back. Look, they were not that great against the Rams. They really, they were challenged. They were really, really challenged in that game. So this offensive line going up against the defensive line for the Commanders that played well against Detroit still hasn't been a consistently top-tier unit all year long. So there's an opportunity here for the Eagles offensive line to bounce back, and they need to bounce back because you're going up against the Rams. The Rams gave the Eagles a lot of money here, but the thing is, the Commanders will give them a lot of run here, but also they have explosion to their offense. The Rams don't really have that compared to the Commanders. By far, they really don't. So look, this offensive line, if you can bounce back, protect Jalen Hurts, and keep him clean, this will allow everything we talked about above, key number 3, 2, and 1, to go into effect and play well. Key number 4 is important, and it's probably the most pivotal key for the rest of these 3 keys for the Eagles to work. And then key number 5, do not let the pressure sink in again. Because I'm not going to say my reasoning again. If you want to see my reasoning for it, go check out the other videos. I will shorten it. I will shorten it. Pretty much the entire argument here is Philadelphia Eagles fans love you when you're winning and hate you when you're losing. So if the Eagles go down, the fans will turn on you and make it that much harder for you to win. So not letting the pressure sink in, again, is going to be huge. You're 1 game away from the Super Bowl, so a loss here would be particularly painful because you'd be so close, yet everyone would feel so far away. But with all of that being said about the Commanders and the Eagles, who do I have winning this game? I think the team that wins will not commit turnovers. The team that wins will not commit any turnovers. The team that wins will be the quarterback who has the ball last. And also, the team that is able to score quicker and score more often early in the game will be the winner. And all those 3 little statistics, these little tidbits that I have for the game. One team I think will do better than, and I think it's going to be the Philadelphia Eagles winning this game. I think this passing game will wake up. I think they will come out slinging the rock. I think it's going to put the Commanders defense back on their heels very, very quickly. Also, I think this defense will come up strong. They're going to get gashed at some point by Jaden Daniels. It's going to happen. At this point, it's a matter of making the big play when it truly matters. And I think when it truly matters, Jalen Carter is going to step up and he is going to get after Jaden Daniels and really challenge him in the pocket and challenge his ability to extend plays. And thirdly, the Eagles, they have been here before. They've been to the NFC Championship. They've been to the Super Bowl. They have the experience of what it's like to be ready for this moment and play in this moment. The Commanders kind of don't. I mean, sure, Jaden Daniels is calm. He's poised, but he is a rookie. Rookie quarterbacks are 0-6 all time in the in the conference championship when they've made it. No rookie quarterback has started for their team and ever made the Super Bowl. There's a reason why that stat exists. Secondly, obviously, Dan Quinn has been to a Super Bowl, but when's the last time he's been to a conference championship? Not since that Super Bowl run, right? So it's been a while for him. While the Eagles, they were in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. They were in the NFC Championship 2 years ago. So this team has been here. They've been in this moment. They're more ready for this moment, I believe. Nothing changes. Just play your game how you've played it all year and go after Jaden Daniels and get this passing game going, which I believe they will do to win this game. It'll be a close one. It'll be exciting. But the Philadelphia Eagles have time and time again proven that they are the better football team, and I think they will be the better football team here as well. We'll move on to our next one, the 6:30 game, prime time. Of course, it's going to be prime time when you got the number 2 Bills traveling to the number 1 seeded Kansas City Chiefs. This will be the 4th playoff matchup between these two quarterbacks, and currently Josh Allen is 0-3. This game is going to be close. It's going to be chippy, just like the Eagles Commanders, but this one is going to have some heavy weight because the Bills, Josh Allen, they won it really bad. They were doubted on this year. They were dogged on for not having a good team. This is a transition year, and here they are, one game away from the Super Bowl against their arch nemesis. If you're the Buffalo Bills, here's your keys. Number 1 and number 2, they go hand in hand together. Stop Kelsey and contain Patrick Mahomes. Looking at what the Texans were able to do we'll start with Mahomes here, containing Mahomes, they were able to do it. And how they did it, they maintained their gap integrity, and their interior off defensive line did not, they also maintained their gap integrity, I guess. But the interior defensive line played very, very soundly. That's the key here. Your edge rushers, fine. They're going to do their thing. For Houston, they're going to do their thing, of course. But the interior were really stepped up here. And here's the thing. This defensive line for the Bills is pretty good. You got Greg Russo, and AJ Epinesa, and you have Ed Oliver at defensive tackle, right? You got good players here. There are talented players here. So containing Mahomes should be a task that the Bills are up for and they should be ready for. And I think they can contain him following a similar blueprint to what the Texans were able to do. And his second one is to stop, or first key, we'll talk about it second, stop Travis Kelsey. Travis Kelsey was the only thing that was truly doing much of anything for the Kansas City Chiefs. And what has it been every year the Chiefs have been in the playoffs? It's been Mahomes and Kelsey. It's been Mahomes and Kelsey time and time again. And I don't know why anyone thought that, Travis Kelsey was going to take a step back in the playoffs or he wasn't going to show up. The dude's going to show up no matter what. Just like Gronk. Even in the later years when Gronk was almost ready to retire when he was with New England, even then when he had bad regular seasons and, was not the part of what he normally was in the playoffs, he still made a ton of plays. And that's because when it matters, he stepped up. Travis Kelsey is going to step up in this game too. You cannot let him get open. And quite frankly, I don't care if it's man or it's zone, I'm going to try and keep a man on him all game long. I genuinely would. It's like keeping a spy on a quarterback. I would get a man to cover him all game long. Even if you're running man coverage entirely across the whole length of the field or you're playing zone, you want to keep one man on him at all times, or at least look like you're keeping a man on him at all times, and confuse the timing and chemistry that Mahomes and Kelsey have. If you can confuse their timing and slow them down, then you can start picking off at the offensive line. You can start, especially on their tackles, right? You can start picking off on these other receivers that have not really done much for them against the Houston Texans. Xavier Worthy was their next best guy, but he really only had one big catch and nothing much past that. And the third key, along with this, is to minimize the penalties. Same thing for Houston. And the point of why minimizing penalties is so important, it's not because, oh, you're going at home or in Kansas City, you're going against the Chiefs, the referees are going to get you. Okay, you can make that debate all you want. I already said my case about the situation in the previous video. If you want to hear it, go check it out. But my point for why penalties happen still stands. You get into a situation where you're going to get one over on the Mahomes. You're going to get one over on this defense. You are so close because you're facing big bad wolf here. I mean, you're facing the top dog. So when you have an opportunity to go up and get ahead of them, it can get really easy to get excited and get a little extra here, a little bit extra there. Next thing you know, you got a flag that hurts your defense or hurts your offense and puts them backward. And so minimizing penalties is huge because in situations like this, you are the underdog. Do not commit penalties that give you and make it harder for you to win. It's simply going to make it harder. So minimizing the penalties equally as important here as it was for the Houston Texans. The fourth key, continue your run game dominance. I wouldn't say the Bills were dominant in the run game last week against Baltimore, but holistically, they've ran the ball really well throughout these playoffs so far. So if I'm Buffalo, I'm going to try and continue that. But along with that, honestly, I would use Josh Allen in the run game a lot more. I really would. When you look at why the Baltimore Ravens were able to defeat the Pittsburgh Steelers and dominate time of possession, it's because they ran the ball well with Derrick Henry, but also ran the ball well with Lamar Jackson. Josh Allen is the second best dual threat quarterback in the NFL behind Lamar Jackson. I would use him as a runner, and they used him a little bit more as a runner early on against Baltimore. He did run the ball with his legs 10 times in that game, but I would expect to see more of that. I expect Josh Allen to have 10 plus runs in this game. And I expect a lot of them to be design runs, to go get behind this offensive line that's been great for you this year and go out there and win. Go out there and do that, right? And the fifth key, while continuing run game dominance, and that portion on the offensive line also contain this pass rush. The Bills' offensive line has allowed the least few sacks in the NFL. They have been phenomenal this year, in pass protection. The Chiefs' defensive line, 8 against the Houston Texans. Obviously, they're not going to get 8 sacks against Buffalo. That's not going to happen. The Texans' offensive line is just straight up garbage. The Bills' offensive line is a bunch of good. It's a bunch of, I don't know what another comparison to garbage is. What am I talking about? But either way, you got to contain this pass rush, though, because George Karlaftis had 3 sacks. He went off. This defensive line, overall, like I said, went off. But if you want this offensive game plan to completely collapse and fall apart, let the Chiefs defense get after you and sack Josh Allen. If you can't sack Josh Allen, I don't think the Kansas City Chiefs can, I don't think they can win. Genuinely, if they don't sack Josh Allen one time, I don't think they win. Because Josh Allen has proven that when he has a good pocket and when he has time to run around, when his offensive line is constantly manhandling defensive lines week in and week out, it made Josh Allen look so much more cleaner and efficient. There's a reason why they only had 8 giveaways all year long. Sorry, I just heard someone talking. But that's the 5th key. The 6th key is a bonus 6th key. Right now for the Bills, everything is on the table. I know I kind of just cut off there. I'm just going to move on. But the 6th key here is everything is on the table. Everything is on the table for the Buffalo Bills. Go for it on 4th down. Anything that can put you above the Kansas City Chiefs, even if it's a risk, I would take it. You literally have to send everything you have. You're going up against Chiefs on the road. You can say you're going up against the referees. If you want to talk about that, that's fine. If you want to make that argument, fine. Either way, it doesn't change the fact that the Bills are going to have to lay it all out there if they want to win. And moving on to the Kansas City Chiefs. The first one, keep Patrick Mahomes clean. This Bills defensive line is talented. It is very good. And you saw what these edge rushers for Houston were able to do against these tackles. The Bills defensive line could do something similar. So keeping Mahomes clean will allow him to distribute the ball, allow more receivers other than Travis Kelce to make plays, which goes into key number 2, getting more people involved. The thing with the Kansas City Chiefs is they really haven't been able to do that consistently all year long. It's always been, one guy being really great while everyone else is just kind of like, just kind of, making a couple plays here and there. Fine. But no, in this game against Buffalo, you are going to need to get everybody involved and kind of throw the kitchen sink at them. The Buffalo Bills are the one team that beat you this year, really. I'm not going to say the Broncos. Obviously, the Broncos won, but that was against backups, so sure. And when Patrick Mahomes was on the field, the one time he lost was against Buffalo. That was the one time. So getting everybody involved is going to be critical because this Buffalo Bills defense played you and beat you. So coming up with being able to contain, keep Mahomes clean and get all these receivers involved will be paramount. Key number 3, the run game. You got to run with efficiency. You got to run with efficiency because Buffalo Bills run defense is good. You're not going to get very many opportunities. So when you do get opportunities, you're going to have to make them really count. They're really going to have to count here. And I think I kind of ran myself into a wall here. But like I said, you're going to have to run the ball with efficiency. You're not going to be able to run it a lot. So making sure it counts, which will also contribute to keeping Mahomes clean and getting everybody else involved. I would send, whoever's got the hot hand, I would stick with him in the run game. Recently, it's been Kareem Hunt over Isaiah Pacheco. But honestly, I would try and get Pacheco more involved in this game. I wouldn't say more than Kareem Hunt, but I would try and get these guys equally involved. The fourth key, get sticky with these receivers. These receivers for Buffalo work their best when they're in space. You get guys like Trent McDuffie, the corner for the Kansas City Chiefs, who is one of the best sticky corners in the NFL. He's really emerged as that guy. So being able to get your hands on Khalil Shakir, Amari Cooper, Curtis Samuel, Keon Coleman, Mac Hollins, all these guys, right? They all thrive off of getting separation open, getting open quickly. So if I'm Kansas City, get sticky with these receivers, jam them at the line, and mess up the timing. This will help your defensive line, which is going to, I believe, will have struggles against the Bills' offensive line. This will help them out and help them get after Josh Allen a lot. So being able to really prevent the space that the receivers for Kansas or the Buffalo thrive on will be paramount here. And the fifth one, contain Josh Allen and pressure him. At certain points in the game, you're just going to have to pin your ears back and get after him and blitz him. And that's where he's going to probably pick you apart. And that's where he's picked defenses apart all year long. But here, you're going to have to, at some point, to just go after man on man and get after him. You're going to have to be able to get after him and don't let him bounce out in the pocket. Because if you do, he's going to kill you and he's going to score points on you. Simple as that. And then for the sixth key here for the Chiefs, same thing with the Eagles. You're at home. You've been here before. A lot of stuff is in your favor. Take care of business. It's no different than the past 6 straight times before this one that you've been to the AFC Championship. It's no different. It's no different. Play your game and do what you need to do to win. But ultimately, with all this being said, I want Buffalo to win this game. Not because, I'm rooting for Buffalo, but it would be really nice to see Josh Allen get to a Super Bowl here. And you can say, okay, part of it is, I don't want to root for the Chiefs because the Chiefs won a lot. But being fair, I want Buffalo to win because it would be really cool to see Josh Allen get to the Super Bowl. But look, if I am truly being fair, maybe not being fair, but if I'm being honest and I'm being kind of objective, I have the Kansas City Chiefs winning this game and going back to the Super Bowl. Because look, they're at home. That is a factor. Beating Kansas City in Kansas City is next to impossible. Regular season, playoffs, whatnot, doesn't matter. It's almost impossible. And along with that, if you want to, again, make that referee conversation, that's something that swirls around. That's something that happens again, Kansas City. Whether I agree, regardless of my stance on the referee situation, it doesn't change the fact that referees play a critical role whenever the Chiefs are at home. They always do. It was like that with Brady in New England as well. So there is that. The Chiefs are at home. That is a massive advantage in more ways than one. Secondly, they have the experience. Like I said, they've been to the AFC Championship 7 straight years now. Nothing changes there. And third one, it's Kansas City till it isn't. There's a reason why people have thought they go back to the Super Bowl, because they've proven that it's truly them until it isn't. They've been in so many one-score games. They've been in so many positions where they shouldn't have won games, but they found ways to win. It's literally been Kansas City until it hasn't. It's literally been that way all year for Kansas City, and honestly, I don't expect it to change now. I think Buffalo's going to put up a really good fight. I think this game could go to overtime. Just like, back in the divisional round a couple years ago. I can't see it. I simply do not see a way that the Buffalo Bills find a way to win this game against Kansas City in Kansas City. I think it's just too tall of a task. Until you can get Kansas City on the road in the playoffs, I don't think it's going to happen. Give me the Kansas City Chiefs to win this game, and your Super Bowl matchup will be between the Eagles and the Chiefs. And that is going to do it for me today, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. Make sure you guys leave a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on the conference championship and who you think is going to win. And also make sure to like and subscribe, making sure that you guys are getting locked in and locked on to the Shumake Take podcast. Liking and subscribing will help this channel grow so much. It'll help me out tremendously. So I'd greatly appreciate it if you guys could do that for me. And also make sure you share the video, whether it's by word of mouth or sharing on social media, getting everybody, again, locked in and locked on to the Shumake Take podcast. Coming out with great content for you guys every week. Probably going to make a content schedule change here in the next week. Kind of, announce it, think about what I'm going to do here. But for now, hope you guys enjoyed this video for the conference championship preview. Hope you guys, again, hope you guys enjoyed. I've said it a lot, but really, I hope you guys have enjoyed. For the last time, I'll say it. But that will do it for me today, guys. I will see you guys after these games. And by then, I'll see you guys next time.